I'm your host, and we have got an absolute roller coaster of tech news to unpack for you today. We're covering everything from massive hardware shifts to the bleeding edge of AI. And honestly, by the end of this, we're going to completely cross the boundary of what we consider a normal screen size. Let's just dive right in.
7. That is the magic number today, but this isn't just a number. It's actually the start of a whole new era in tech. I'm talking about the Redmi Note 17 series, which is dropping on August 6th. And get this, it features a staggering 7-inch display. Yeah, you heard me right, 7 inches. It is completely blurring the line between a smartphone and a tablet. Just imagine having a literal 7-inch screen living right there in your pocket.
Now, you might be thinking that is a massive design risk, and you're right. But it actually makes total sense when you look at the wild shifts happening across the tech industry this week. Our agenda today covers this massive 7-inch era, the shrinking smartphone market, how brands are frantically shifting focus, the huge push for local manufacturing, new AI devices, and finally, mind control tech. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The massive 7-inch era. We really need to start with this giant Redmi Note 17 because it's essentially the anchor of today's entire tech orbit. It's not just the screen size that's huge, the internal specs are an absolute powerhouse. Driving that massive 7-inch display is the Snapdragon 44 chipset. And because a screen that size is going to eat up power, they've packed in a monstrous 8,000 mAh battery. You're also getting 50-megapixel rear cameras and a gorgeous Full HD Plus OLED display running at a buttery 120 Hz. But here's the real question. Why on earth is Redmi taking such a huge, literal gamble on this size?
Section 2. A shrinking smartphone market. The answer to that question actually lies in the current state of the industry. The truth is, the Indian smartphone market is struggling right now, and brands have absolutely no choice but to innovate if they want to survive.
The data paints a pretty grim picture. We are looking at a sharp 10% year-over-year decline in Indian smartphone sales. That means 10% fewer phones were sold this year compared to last year, making it one of the sharpest drops we've seen in recent times. The market is slowing down, and quite frankly, consumers are just bored. Nobody wants to buy the same old, safe slab phone designs anymore. But does that mean the market is completely dead? No. Definitely not. Check out this crazy contrast. While the overall market is down by 10%, the newcomer brand Nothing just posted a massive 105% growth. They are the fastest growing brand out there right now. What does that tell us? It proves that if you release bold, highly differentiated hardware, like Nothing's transparent backs or Redmi's giant 7-inch display, people are still absolutely willing to buy it.
Section 3. Brands shifting their focus. Because of this extreme market turbulence, the major players are hitting the panic button and frantically restructuring their entire businesses.
This is a massive shakeup, especially inside BBK Electronics. OnePlus is actively pulling its operations out of the US and Europe. And while they say they're staying in India, there's a wild, unconfirmed rumor floating around from Mark Gurman that OnePlus might actually exit the Indian market entirely by 2027. Meanwhile, Realme is doubling down, focusing purely on international and Indian markets. But the biggest takeaway here, whether it's OnePlus, Realme, or Oppo, they are all unifying under Oppo's Color OS. It's a total software consolidation. And while all that restructuring is happening, the under 20K to 40K price segment has turned into an absolute bloodbath. Motorola just dropped the 870 Max with insanely fast 90W charging. Vivo introduced the T5 Lite, bringing the Dimensity 6300 chipset for under 20,000 rupees. Tecno's Com50 Ultra is rocking dual 50-megapixel rear cameras and a 50-megapixel selfie shooter. Lava's new Virat series is throwing in massive 6,000 mAh batteries. And guess who's back? Asus is returning to the Indian market, but not with a phone. They're launching a 12.2-inch OLED tablet called the Asus Pad on August 6th. It is fiercely competitive out there.
Section 4. The local manufacturing push. So we have all these massive devices coming out, but where are they actually being built? The spotlight has heavily shifted to domestic production.
Just take a look at this figure, 2,500 crore rupees. The Indian government is rolling out this enormous incentive scheme specifically targeted at ramping up local smartphone production and generating thousands of jobs across the supply chain. They want these brands to make India their global manufacturing hub.
And we aren't just talking about snapping together parts either. This brings us to ISM 2.0, an absolutely mind-boggling 1.27 lakh rupee government budget designed to build India's semiconductor industry from the ground up. Instead of relying on Taiwan and China for the actual chipsets powering these phones,
India is heavily investing to manufacture the silicon right here at home. Section 5. AI and smart devices. So we've got the physical hardware covered, but what about the futuristic software that's going to run on it? Let's transition over to the Wild West of artificial intelligence. Regulations are forcing some really interesting pivots right now. Over in China, strict local rules mean Apple can't use ChatGPT for Apple Intelligence, so they are actually partnering with Baidu and Alibaba to power Siri for Chinese users. At the exact same time, a Chinese startup called MonSAI just dropped KMI K3. This is a massive 2.6 trillion parameter model, and they made it open source. That is an insane amount of computing power just being handed to developers globally. Not to be left out, OpenAI is actually making moves into physical hardware. For developers, they're introducing the KDX Micro, which is this compact little 13-key AI coding keypad. But the real game changer? They're working on a screen-free smart speaker scheduled for 2027. You'll be able to have totally natural, flowing conversations with it, just like you would with a real human. You can even interrupt it mid-sentence. Section 6. Mind control and future tech. All right, so from screen-free conversational AI, we're now entering the final and, frankly, the most mind-bending part of today's explainer. Before we get to the sci-fi stuff, let's briefly cover the tech quirks of the week. You know that infamous green line bug that ruins smartphone displays? Well, apparently it's contagious, because now Samsung wearables, specifically the Watch 4 and Fit 3, are getting green lines on their tiny screens right after the One UI 8 update. Unbelievable. Also, a quick PSA. Airtel is cracking down on those unlimited 5G hotspot shares. They've silently slapped a 300 gigabyte fair usage limit on it, so you can't just run your whole neighborhood off your phone anymore. Okay, look at the crazy evolution we are going through right now. Think about how we control our tech. It started with touch, which perfectly circles back to that massive 7-inch Redmi display. Then we moved to voice, like the upcoming OpenAI smart speaker. So what's the next logical step? Thought. And that brings us to the future. A company called Brainco has developed an AI platform that literally reads your brain signals. You can control a physical robot just by thinking about it. You think about raising an arm, the robot raises its arm. It is an absolutely massive leap in how humans and hardware interact. We are literally at the point where technology can read our minds to perform physical actions in the real world. So, pulling it all together, even if the smartphone market is shrinking, true innovation is absolutely alive and well. From Redmi trying to disrupt the market by cramming a 7-inch screen into your pocket, to AI systems that let you pilot robots with your thoughts. So I'll leave you with this question. Are you actually ready for a massive 7-inch screen in your pocket and a mind-controlled robot walking around your home? Think about that for a second. Keep staying curious, and we'll see you in the next